Hello, gamers from around the world. This is Boxenberger, the video game enthusiast from Germany, and I would like to welcome you to today's episode of the World of Gaming. And today it's a really hot episode, and that's not just because we have a special guest, but because it's literally super hot here in Germany. I'm melting away. We have 34 degrees right now, and just had a little rain and now it's humid, and that's why I'm sweating. But that doesn't take away from the excitement that I have for today's show, and that is because of this gentleman joining us for the very first time. It's been a long time coming. Deadly Headley is joining us today. How you doing?
It has. What's up, everybody? That's a really warm welcome. Thank you, Boxenberger. Yeah, it's a pleasure to be here. Thank you for having me. If you're wondering who I am, I co-host a Xbox show on a Thursday with Acer from Game On Daily, RIP, and Gamsley. And the reason why I'm here today is because Acer isn't here, which means that unlike the normal schedule where we end up clashing with these guys, we actually get to hang out together, which is long overdue, as Boxy said in the intro.
Absolutely. And it's a pleasure to have you on. I'm really excited to talk with you about games and the news and everything. So, but first, let me also welcome our awesome community. I see a lot of familiar names already in the chat. A big welcome to everyone, and of course, a big welcome to everyone who listens after the fact, either here on YouTube or on Spotify, Apple Podcasts, wherever you're listening. A big welcome. And Dutch, my man, how are you doing today?
Yes, much like the other chaps in the digital room, we are sweating, boiling hot. It's humid as hell, and I'm in a lovely enclosed room full of technology, so it's even warmer. So, so aside from being boiling hot, I'm good. I've just wrapped up the Visions of Mana demo, so we'll talk about that when we talk about the games we've played. So.
Yeah.
No, I am good. I'm dying to get into the conversation today, and it's great to have Mr. Headley here today. So, yes,
absolutely,
I'm doing good. It's great to have guests on again.
Absolutely. And I already.
When was the last time you guys had a guest on?
I want to say 4 weeks.
Okay, cool.
We had Dave Ramos on, like I want to say 4 or 5 weeks. So it's been a while, but yeah, it's awesome to have you on. And I already see people bragging about temperatures in the chat. Sith Lord, I see you. I always say the very big difference between many areas in the world where they are used to having high temperatures is what people don't know is we don't have ACs here in Germany. Nobody has an AC. And so we are really sweating away. But yeah. Enough of the temperature talk. Let's talk about games and games we play. As always, you guys can vote in the chat what gameplay we're going to watch today. I put up a poll, but of course, I want to know from everyone in the chat, and Deadly, of course, from you as well. What have you been playing lately?
There's a couple great games I've been playing. So first of all, I have been enjoying Assassin's Creed Mirage. I opened that up last week.
How do you like it?
I do like it, actually. So I fell off the Assassin's Creed series quite a while ago. I played Origins. I liked the turn that Origins took, but I always preferred that classic AC formula. Like my favorite Assassin's Creed to date is probably Assassin's Creed 2 or Assassin's Creed Brotherhood. I loved that era of the series, and we're really going right back.
Storyline.
I thought that storyline was awesome. I really liked Black Flag as well. I thought Black Flag was fantastic. I need to give Valhalla a fair shot, and that's in Game Pass as well, so nice and easy to get onto. But yeah, I'm having a really good time with Mirage. I think I'm probably 2-3 hours into it. They've sort of just given me kind of the keys to kind of go and let loose and do whatever I like and go and take on various investigations and things like that. So it's starting to open up now. It's still got those same Ubisoft tropes, and I think that's part of the thing that I sort of fell out of love with a little bit with Assassin's Creed and Ubisoft games in general. But I haven't touched one in a while, so it's kind of refreshing to have that formula and kind of switch off your brain a little bit, not completely, because you end up performing a lot better if you actually think about the moves you're doing and the risks you're taking. But you don't have to think nearly as hard as you do with something like Baldur's Gate, for example.
Good stuff. Good stuff. Anything else you've been playing?
Yeah. So the only other game that I played this week is the Cyberpunk Phantom Liberty expansion.
Ooh,
so I started that
one.
a few months ago. It's very good. I started that. I did like literally the opening scene also back when it first came out. But I was really hung up on Baldur's Gate 3 because I loved that game, and I'm still playing it. I'm still trying to finish Baldur's Gate 3. I'm on Act 3 at the moment there. But I've been craving the Phantom Liberty DLC for some time. I really enjoyed the base game. So yeah, I'm having a great time with that as well. And again, kind of just had the keys given to me there too. So I've met Idris Elba's character and sort of basically gone through that kind of secondary opening section where they go, right, okay, we've given you all the story mechanics. Here's the situation. Go and find some stuff to do, or start following the main story lead if you want. Is where I'm at.
Sweet.
Nice.
Phantom Liberty DLC was so good.
I'm really enjoying that so far.
Yeah.
It's great.
And you said you're in Act 3 on Baldur's Gate. Is it fixed now? Because I played it at launch. The game when it came out, and you could really tell that Act 3 has not been in early access. So how is it now, almost a year after launch?
I'm guessing you played that on PC?
I played it on PC, yeah.
Okay, so I've only played on Xbox Series X. So again, I picked that up on launch day and have kind of just been obsessed with it since. The thing that I've really craved is actually just good quality time to play that, because I think you really need that for a game like Baldur's Gate. Act 3 feels quite weird for me at the moment. So I haven't noticed anything in terms of whether or not something needs fixing, because I don't have a frame of reference for it. But what has got me with Baldur's Gate 3 is I have quite a lot of leads that I can follow. I've got loads of quests open, but some of them feel like they've hit dead ends a little bit, or I need to keep exploring to find the person that can help me do the thing, or an item to help me solve some stuff. And I sort of feel like I'm a bit of a loose end with them. I could start looking up guides and stuff like that, but I've actually done a really good job of not doing that. And I sort of count that as a bit of a personal achievement, because I felt quite intimidated by Baldur's Gate 3.
I remember when Baldur's Gate 3 came out, I was somewhere at the end of Act 2. I was stuck. There's this main quest from the main storyline where you go into this huge cave and you have to solve a couple of riddles. And I was completely stuck. And so I thought I looked it up, and every guide I found solved that particular riddle in a different way, and none of these ways worked for me. As it turns out, the outcome of this riddle depended on a couple of story choices you made earlier in the game.
Oh,
and so
no
it
way.
was impossible to find a guide, and I was super frustrated.
Yeah, I bet.
Shout out to ACG, he was able to help me.
Nice.
Yeah.
Oh, that's good.
Good stuff. Good stuff. So, Dutch, what have you been playing lately?
Other than just chipping away at the platinum for Days Gone, since I've finished the story now, I have just played the Visions of Mana demo. So
sweet. I started it earlier today, but then I got interrupted by my kids, and so I have only played the first 10-15 minutes. How is it?
Yeah, it's good. I mean, it's the first Mana game that I've played, because I wasn't a Mana kid growing up. I was always a diehard Final Fantasy guy, so Mana was it's the first one for me. It's significantly less annoying than the Dragon Quest game for me. I
Okay.
think in Dragon Quest they go far too much into like what I would class as the stereotypical British voiceover. And I just despise it. I hate it. Like, we don't talk like that. That's not the British accent. That's but
You
yeah,
can spot
I
it
love
from a
it.
mile off, can't you?
Yeah, we're just like, oh no.
Okay.
But yeah, this is significantly better. It's a mixture of different accents and things like that. It's new to me. The combat's quite easy to get a hold of. The demo really flings every mechanic at you in the first 5 minutes and expects you to take
Yeah,
them
that's
all in
what I
immediately.
noticed. Like, I was a little overwhelmed when I started it. I was like reading through 10 different instructions, and you can do this, and I was like, I have no idea what I'm supposed to do.
Yeah,
But yeah, I
yeah.
bet the
That's
main game
what I felt.
introduces you a lot better to that.
Yeah. I mean, the good thing is it's got this, at least in the demo, the introduce you kind of get the mechanic section, and then they open you up to a little open world section you can go and explore. Now, there's not much of that to explore, but you can do it. Obviously, for the purposes of just recording some footage, I've just kind of rushed through that to get the demo done. So
Yeah.
the demo was like, if you can explore, but it was about 50 minutes long, including the boss battle at the end. So, no, it was from what I played, I enjoyed it. It's going to be intriguing to see what the full game's like and how they introduce the mechanics slowly in the full game, as opposed to kind of everything at the same time. And how the kind of weapons are, and how the different special abilities are, because each character in the demo has 2 special abilities, but of course they've got slots for additionals. So it's going to be intriguing. But I'm looking forward to trying my first mana game fully when it comes out next month.
Sweet. I know you haven't been super excited for Mana, but I have been. So I was super surprised when they launched a demo, actually. Definitely going to play that tomorrow. Are you excited for Visions of Mana, Deadly?
It's not really my kind of thing. I like it. Looks nice, the thing that we saw in the direct, but yeah, it's not really my type of game, to be honest. But I can see why people are excited for it, for sure.
Yeah. All right, good stuff. Dutch, anything else you've been playing besides Days Gone and the demo?
You know what it is? I think yes. I've played a little bit of Flintlock.
Oh, so how do you like it? Because I shared my thoughts last week.
Yeah, so I mean, all I've done is got past. So I've got past the first settlement, and now I'm on to the next area, and that's pretty much where I've left it. Now, until that point, it's fine. Up until that point, it's good. It's all right. Haven't come across any kind of ridiculous enemies or anything so far. We've got the typical boss battle in the game where you're meant to lose, you're not meant to win. Right at the start. So no, but other than that, it's all right so far. I'm looking forward to seeing how difficult it gets going on, because again, I'm not a big Souls player. Is it as difficult and as much of a pain in the arse as other Souls games, or is it a Souls light and it is a little bit more forgiving? Time will tell. But
wait till
so far,
you come to the second settlement, and then we'll talk again.
Yes. So far, it's all right. Yeah, it's graphically it's nice. Combat seems nice so far. The audio and the story seems nice so far. So yeah, I'm looking forward to playing a little bit more of that. And aside from that, just playing a little bit of Call of Duty Modern Warfare 3 with the lads online the other days, and of course with Ace's community nights, and played a little bit with them. So had fun sniping those chaps in the head. But
Sweet.
other than that, yeah, that's what I've been playing.
Good stuff. So yeah, I've been playing Call of Duty Modern Warfare 3 as well, but only the campaign. Finished that. I thought it was all right. I mean, it's like, it's one of these. I think on Twitter I posted and compared it to a Michael Bay movie. Turn your brain off for a couple of hours and just have fun with it. And that's exactly what it delivered. Yeah, it's like you have these very well orchestrated action sequences, and Yeah, the story is ugh, but who gives a damn? I had fun playing through it. Took me about 5 hours or so to beat it. I enjoyed it. Worth playing the
I really
campaign.
want to check out the campaign for Modern Warfare 3.
Yeah.
I haven't played Modern Warfare 2's campaign though. Would you recommend checking that out first? Because I'm
Mm,
kind of waiting for that to hit Game Pass.
would I recommend that? I mean, you definitely can play the campaign of 3 and
Mhm.
understand what's going on without playing 2. But of course, there are a lot of things where you have a benefit, of course, when you
Yeah,
know the story of 1 and 2. So
yeah. I
um,
really liked 1 as well. I thought
yeah,
the Modern Warfare 1 campaign reboot I thought was great.
yeah, that was great.
I'm
That
not
was
I'm not hugely into the multiplayer for Call of Duty, but I agree with you on like the campaigns being that sort of turn your brain off and just do the
Yeah,
thing.
it's the Fast
exactly.
and
It's great for
Furious of the gaming franchises.
that. Exactly that. Yeah.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Yeah. So I'm also not that much into the multiplayer of Call of Duty. But yeah, the campaign. I think it's probably a safe bet to assume that Modern Warfare 2 will be in Game Pass within the next couple of months.
Yeah.
So
I think so.
maybe
Yeah, I
you
think so.
just hold off and then play them back to back.
Mm.
I think, but
I mean, to be fair, do they even link these days?
yeah, they well, the
Kind of.
story in itself stands on its own, but you do a
Yeah.
couple of things in the game, and um, at least it helps you to know who the antagonist is. Let me put it this way, you know.
Mm.
So
Yeah.
yeah, but other than that, to be fair, the Modern 3 Warfare 3 campaign, I played 1 and 2, but 3 was kind of very predictable, basically how it ends, and but yeah, definitely worth playing. So yeah, I've been playing that, and um I'm not sure if I told that last week. I just finished Octopath Traveler 2. Yeah, and I put like
Yes.
I want to say 80 hours or so into that. And you know, when you really love the game and you spend like 70, 80 hours in it and you finish it and you don't know really what to pick up next. You kind of don't want to
Yeah.
like pick up the next big game, but you kind of need to digest. That's where Call of Duty came in beautifully. And I also played a little bit and went back to Diablo 4, like as my comfort game, you know. So before starting something new, I have downloaded Hinterberg, Dungeons of Hinterberg.
Yes.
I want to definitely start that, but I think I'm gonna do that over the weekend now. Yeah. All
Yeah.
right. All right. Good stuff. So, with that, let us get into some news. And actually, we had like breaking news just an hour or so before the show started, right? Tom Warren
Yeah.
posted that Avowed might get delayed. He seems pretty sure of it, and he posted, and I'm quoting now, I understand Avowed is in a good shape. This is more of a matter of wanting to give the game breathing room outside of a very busy period for Xbox Game Pass. And he suggests that it's getting delayed into early 2025. So last week, Dutch, we did talked about a very crowded like holiday season, yeah, especially
Yeah.
for Xbox and Game Pass releases. You have Call of Duty, you have Towerborn Flight Sim, you have Age of Mythology, you have Avowed, you have Stalker 2, you have did I mention Call of Duty already? I don't know. Indiana Jones, and it's like a super busy and crowded holiday season. And we talked about that this is something where Xbox kind of needs to improve to like stretch it out a little bit better. Yeah, if you look at the first half of the year, we only had like Hellblade 2, which was a like a 5-hour game, 6-hour game, right? A good one, but and that's basically it. From January to September, we had this one game, and then you have in like 2 or 3 months, like 8 to 9 games. Yeah. So Deadly Headley, do you think it's going to happen that Avowed is going to get delayed, and does it make sense to you?
I I think given the context of how busy the back half of Xbox's year is, I think it makes sense. It's obviously unfortunate to see that a game needs a delay, but I would rather, if it's a case of it getting delayed because it is in a good space and they just want to give it some breathing room, because you don't want that coming up against Call of Duty.
Yeah.
This is kind of okay. It's not being sold in as Xbox's answer to Skyrim in the vacuum of another Elder Scrolls game, but it's an important IP that Xbox is bringing to the table. It's a fantasy RPG, so you want to make sure that fans of fantasy RPGs who also fall in the Venn diagram of being Call of Duty fans, and there's probably quite a lot of those, you want to make sure that they actually get to go and enjoy both games without fighting for time.
Yeah.
I think it's a very delicate balancing act that Xbox are going to have to focus on there. And I mean, there's nothing to suggest that it's in a bad shape. We were expecting it this year anyway, so I'm not worried about the condition that Avowed is in at all.
Yeah. I mean, I personally am a little disappointed if that's going to happen, to be honest, because I was super looking forward to Avowed. Yeah, it's like my most anticipated game for the rest of the year. I love Obsidian, and I really appreciate them trying to do a high fantasy RPG, and they've never, well, they have done it with the Pillars games, but those are kind of very different. Yeah, they have dived into things like Outer World and Fallout, and with Avowed, I was super excited. I kind of understand that the fall season is a little too crowded. Yeah, Dutch, where do you stand with this?
Yeah, I'm also a little bit disappointed as well, to be fair, because Avowed was probably my more anticipated of the remaining exclusives coming out this year.
Yeah,
I was looking forward to a new Skyrim-esque game. Obviously, I could go back and play Skyrim 50 times over, but I want that freshness. I want something a little bit new in the high fantasy RPGs, and I like the fact that Obsidian do these more condensed universes that aren't several hundred hours long.
Yeah,
and it's like 40 hours with all side quests and things like that. So I was really looking forward to it, to be fair. I know a lot of people kind of might not have been, but it was the highest on my list, and I'd much rather have. And it sounds horrible, but I'd much rather have Indie been delayed than than Avowed.
Yeah,
personally. But no, it's, to be fair, it depends on what the internal decision's about. Is it just polishing, or is it just a case of Microsoft saying, listen, there's so many things releasing this tail end of these which are going to be kind of the least, I wouldn't say least missed, but the ones where people aren't as hyped, which ones are getting the least interest, and which one can we afford to push back to next year. And I think probably Avowed might have been out of the couple of out of Call of Duty, Indie and Avowed, probably thought, okay, let's take that choice and we'll keep Indie for this year. We'll keep obviously Call of Duty's not budging, so we'll push Avowed next year and give it a little bit more breathing room and more eyes on, and hopefully more people play it that way, because like it is now, there's so many things I have to catch up on and play. I've got Flintlock, Dungeons of Hinterberg. I'm glad that Visions of Mana demo is short, but Visions of Mana comes out in the end of August. So then you've got that coming out, and then you've got all these other indies, and you've got Call of Duty's just dropped on Game Pass for those who haven't played it or bought it previously. And there's so many more games still coming out in the next few months that it's hard to really devote time to that many games at the same time. So
I actually felt a little sigh of relief when it happened with Stalker. I'm really excited for
Yeah.
Stalker, but there are too many games to play. It's crazy, and I wouldn't be surprised if Stalker also contributed to the decision to move Avowed, because that's already going to be competing with the likes of Call of Duty as well.
yeah,
That's so true.
yeah.
It was supposed to come out, Stalker 2 was supposed to come out like 5th of
September.
September,
Yeah.
very early September.
9th it was, I think,
Or
9th of September.
Very early
Yeah.
September, and within that week you also have like big games from Ubisoft with Star Wars Outlaws. You have Visions of Mana, you have Age of Mythology coming that week. And there was one or two others that I'm blanking on right now. For Black Myth Wukong, Astrobot, right? And Zelda. And like in September, you would have been too busy anyway. So for Stalker to move to November, which is a relatively empty November so far in terms of announced dates. You have the Flight Sim coming in November, and you have Assassin's Creed Shadows. But that's it. Nothing else is announced for November. A few indie games, yes, but like in terms of bigger releases. So November makes totally sense for Stalker, right?
Yeah.
That's what you said. If I would have been a betting man, I would have said, yeah, of course, Xbox. It's Xbox. Come on. They are going to delay at least one of those games, right?
Yeah. I mean, we were kind of, it was, I think everybody had it in the back of their mind when they still hadn't released release dates for any of them that were due out the tail end of the year. It was a case of like, are these actually hitting this year? Like, we understand they want to keep it close to their chest, but it's getting, like, it's the last 6 months of the year already, and we still don't have dates. So, yeah, I think everybody in the back of the mind thought at least one of them is probably going to get delayed here. And I was, to be fair, if I was a betting man, I probably would have put it more on indie.
Yeah, me too. I was like, because for Avowed, kind of the hype machinery is already going. They have these regular like weekly community streams and tons of interviews, and we've seen multiple times presentations of the game, and so to me it was like, yeah, Avowed is definitely a 24 game, and if they move anything, it's gonna be indie, right?
I'm quite interested to see what the strategy is with marketing. Let's not get too hung up on the word strategy and marketing for it.
There's marketing.
in terms of what's coming when, and how they might sort of try and push different bundles and things leading up to like Black Friday, for instance. I can see like Indiana Jones. Yeah, I can see Indiana Jones being quite popular with like gaming dads. Do you know what I mean?
Yeah.
It's like there's going to be a very sort of, hopefully quite a powerful nostalgia hit with audiences who currently don't have either an Xbox console or a way into the Xbox ecosystem. Microsoft has now got another entry point for consumers into the Xbox ecosystem via Amazon Fire TV sticks as well. So expect strategy to change around that in terms of how they're marketing bundles and stuff. So a few weeks ago when the Fire Stick app came out, we saw them bundle a Fire Stick and a controller and Game Pass code together. You know, you could very easily to switch the messaging on that to go, you know, this is how you play Indiana Jones for, what was it, $60 versus 240 for a Series S, something like that.
Yeah,
it's around the 250 mark, give or take.
50,
It's it would be interesting to see how they position those things. Again, obviously Call of Duty as well. I think potentially Xbox has got a lot to market this holiday season and the lead up to that. So it does make sense that Avowed has dropped out. But I'm keen to know where they go, what they do, where they put things, and whether it pays off for them. Hopefully it does.
Hopefully, yeah. But you make a lot of sense. I mean, Avowed, it's also like a new IP. Yeah, you don't, like
Mhm.
you said, you don't have the nostalgia that hits with, of course, an Indiana Jones.
Yeah, that known quantity, especially over the holiday period, is probably going to move more units than Avowed on your box art is.
Yeah.
As beautiful as
Yeah.
the Avowed artwork is, Indiana Jones is going to stick out way more. Again, depends on how they do that, how they package
Yeah.
it up, etc. But yeah, you're right.
Absolutely, absolutely. Yeah. So let's see. Along with these news, we also learned today that the bigger games of Xbox won't be playable at Gamescom this year. They have only theater presentations for Avowed, Indiana Jones, and Shattered Space, for that matter.
I think
So
they'll be playable behind closed doors.
maybe, yeah, maybe.
Yeah.
I mean, they did the same thing with Starfield last year, right? That
Yeah.
Gamescom was like a week or two before Starfield came out, and it wasn't
Mhm.
playable at Gamescom. They only did the theater presentation. But I still would have thought, because, yeah, you make a big fuss about the biggest booth ever, right? And then your biggest games won't be playable there.
That's
Yeah.
do you remember? Do you remember how desperate some fanboys tried to kick up a fuss about Starfield not being playable at Gamescom?
Yeah.
And like now that we've all played Starfield, can we agree how shit that queue would be if you had to
Yeah.
wait 2-3 hours for 10 minutes
Oh
on
yeah, it was
Starfield?
long enough
Which
waiting for the theater presentation. Yeah.
Yeah. Oh, yeah. There were like 3-4 hour lines for
Yeah.
a 10-minute theater presentation. Yeah.
Yeah, it's crazy. Did you guys go to the theatre presentation for Starfield last year?
Yeah,
we did. We were lucky. Well, I was lucky. I don't know if Boxy was at that one or a different one, but I went to the theatre presentation that also had the preview of the Fallout TV series before it was aired. So,
Oh, yeah.
Nice.
so I got into that and saw that presentation, and it looked fantastic. Of course, and when we saw the teaser for Fallout series, we also went, yeah, that looks also fantastic. And Todd Howard and everybody was there, but no, it was fun. Yeah, it was really good. It was nice. But I think for those who haven't been to Gamescom, I think they completely underestimate how long the queue times are for playing the big games. Like Black Myth had like a 7-hour queue.
Yeah.
That's not even underestimation either. Like we went 10 o'clock in the morning when it opened and it already has a 7-hour queue. We were like, well, okay.
Gates
never
opened,
mind.
we rushed in. 7-hour queue.
Yeah.
That's crazy.
So,
Needless to say, we didn't stand in line. So we
Yep,
decided,
we were like,
okay,
no.
we could spend the entire day waiting to play a 10-minute demo, but yeah. And with Starfield, we were lucky to get cards for the Xbox Fan Fest, and during the Xbox Fan Fest, there were basically 0 queues. So
yeah, we got like the presentation of Forza before it came out, so we got in to see that first before a lot of the public did, and
Nice.
so there's a lot of cool things that go on when you've got media passes to that event. But public is another thing entirely. That it's a waste of time.
public days.
It's great to meet people, but it is not. If you want to actually play games on public days, you've got next to no chance on getting around anything.
Yeah,
it's too busy. It's like 500,000 people almost.
Yeah, 400,000.
I still love that you guys got to pick the brains of the hardware team, man. I think that's awesome. I think that's really, really cool. Been so like every time I hear you guys talk about that on this show, I'm just leaning in, just.
That was super cool. Like
cool.
that was the best moment I think of Gamescom, because it was completely. He was outside grabbing something to eat, and I was like, "Oh,
we were having like a bratwurst, for lunch, and he was standing next to us, and we just chatted him up whilst eating our bratwurst, and then he asked us whether we would have time this afternoon, and it was like a real surprise, and it was a blast indeed.
It was meant to be half an hour.
Really cool.
Meant to be half an hour, and he was like, "Oh, cancel the next couple of appointments. This one's gold."
I just hope they really took that comment about durability on their Elite Series 2 on board. I need something indestructible, please.
Well, yeah, I mean, it helped as well. The one thing that helped is I was like, well, I'm mod, controllers and I mod Xboxes. Like that's what I do. I customize them. So I can tell you now, there's a lot of things that can be changed about the controller. And they were asking like, okay, so how would you hold the controller? And they were asking us to hold it up and taking photos. We're like, right, okay, so where's the positioning and where's it going wrong? And I was like, well, realistically, like the big paddle is like it always gets in the way, and if you place it down on something, then it'll click something accidentally. And I was like, it's not really like it's good, but it's too obtrusive. It needs to be refined a little bit more. And it's like the shoulder buttons are terrible; they always break. Like you need to sort the shoulder buttons out, and they were taking everything on board. And he was like, right about customizability in Design Lab, and I was like, well, there's a lot you can do there. I was like, theoretically, I was like, have you ever heard of Extreme Rate? And they're like, no. I was like, well, they're a company that make mod shells for this for your controller, but they also make different designs. Not only do they make designs, but if you really wanted to, you can have the trigger stops on a regular controller. You can have the Elite pad on a regular controller. I was like, you could theoretically do that in Design Labs. You can offer the ability to have bits of an Elite controller in a regular controller. Yeah,
you can do butt cheeks.
Not all of it. Yeah, you can have your full surround grips. You can have just the magnetic D pads or sticks, or you can have the trigger stops, or you can have the paddles. You don't have to have it all, but you can have mix and match. You can choose the things on it. And that way people can get what they need out of an Elite, because not everybody uses the trigger stops. Not everybody uses the paddles. Not everybody uses the tensioner sticks. So you kind of get this feeling of, okay, then somebody can essentially choose an Elite style regular controller, but nowhere near the Elite price.
Yes.
And that will bring in more people to go, oh, okay, then I can do fancy sticks and the trigger stops, but I don't have to worry about paddles because I don't really use paddles. And that's going to be under 100 as opposed to 200. So they were like really taking everything on board and talking about the console and the handhelds and really went in depth on everything. It was fantastic.
It's really cool. It's really cool. Hopefully we see some of that feedback come to fruition in the next couple of years. That would be really exciting.
Especially the handheld thing. That really made us laugh every time because it was like, we've known this for months.
We were literally like walking out of this because we kind of stumbled into the handheld discussion. They didn't have that as a plan, but it kind of came up, and I think they told us a couple of things and asked certain questions that they shouldn't have asked, because with that we kind of knew what they are working on, right? And we walked out of there and we decided, so okay, we just get these guys into trouble if we talk about it publicly. So yeah.
Like everything from pricing to type of screen to how powerful to what's the things you dislike about the handhelds currently. What do you want in a handheld? And then when they were talking about price range, of like, that's interesting, because when we've been looking into it, the market's at about this price and people are happy with it at this price. And they were like, okay. So I was like, they're definitely looking at making a handheld, because you don't look at market pricing and go, okay, where can we place something if you're not, okay, that's interesting. And then it was like battery length and screen type. And I was like, ultimately, we would want an LED screen, at least an OLED screen if possible. That would be fantastic. It was like, it makes a world of difference. And but I was like, then of course you've got to weigh up the battery life, and it just went into this, and there were so many questions. We would just
operating system was a long topic as well.
Yeah,
what are they going to use, Windows or the Xbox OS, right?
Ultimately I said it has to, and they were like, what about? I was like, ultimately it has to be native. It has to be native. Like cloud streaming's all well and good for partner things, but if you're going to bring out a handheld, it has to be a native experience.
Yep.
And that was the one thing we stressed. Like, no, it's handheld, it's native. I don't want to be in the airport or on a plane or anything like that. There's no guarantees on a long flight that you're going to have Wi-Fi on the plane. Not all airlines offer Wi-Fi on long flights.
Yeah.
So the native experience is absolutely the way they need to be. And then, of course,
100%.
This year and tail end last year, when they started talking about that main box, you were like, I know they are.
Told you.
Indeed.
You did.
All right. Good stuff. No, not long till games come, but unfortunately we are not going this year. We had to make the tough decision. But
Work.
Work in between work and cost price.
Yeah,
I
and
wasn't
then they've
able
also
to.
massively put up their content creator requirements as well now,
Yeah,
like
that's
Or
to
have
insane
they?
levels.
yeah,
Oh yeah,
Fair enough.
yeah, and with hotel prices and everything going up, I I well I had to make the decision. I can't afford going to Gamescom and go with the kids on a vacation, and
Mhm.
so I decided pro kids and go with them on a vacation rather than to go to Gamescom. But we fully intend to be back there next year again. So
yeah, yeah. It's like Boxy was saying. I mean, if having a look at it, and Boxy, you were going to go with your partner, and
yeah,
for me by myself, it would have been probably upwards of about 1,500
yeah,
for like 5 days,
Yeah,
which is insane amount for just a week. And
yeah, it is.
and of course, would have his partner there as well. So of course, between them and food and things, their food costs to be a bit higher. And yeah, it's just it's an insane expense to try and cram in and be comfortable. And
Yeah.
ideally, if you're at something like that, you
Yeah.
want to be comfortable as well.
hmm Yeah, for sure.
All right. Let us move on and talk about another thing that was discussed intensively on the social media channels, and that is Bungie. Um, kind of laid off 220 people. Well, it wasn't really a hard layoff. It's more that they moved a lot of people from Bungie into the Sony organization, and they also moved in the yet to be founded, newly founded studio. But of course, the discussion was up there. What's going on over there at Bungie? They just launched the apparently really successful final shape for Destiny 2, right? And Jeff Grubb earlier today also said that he has heard, along with these layoffs, they also canceled development in Destiny 3, right? And just going to continue to support Destiny 2. So I wanted to talk to you guys about, well, the future of Bungie and what's going on over there and how they going to continue as a studio. Deadly Headley, do you have any thoughts on that?
So obviously it sucks that people are losing their jobs or
Yeah.
being dissolved into other parts of Sony or however those chips fall. In terms of what Bungie looks like going forward, I obviously Sony are taking a much more hands-on approach. They've talked about another game coming, haven't they? But it's sort of quite light on detail. Do you think this is gonna? How much pressure do you think is on? I'm going to flip the question back at you because I'm not really sure how to answer the one that you asked. How do you think this is going to affect Marathon and the strategy that Sony probably had in place when they took on Bungie versus how do you interpret what's happened here going forward?
I'll let you answer first.
Yeah, it's going to be an interesting one. To be fair, it's going to be a super interesting one when it comes to Marathon, because I've seen obviously a lot of people speculating. Okay, does this mean that Marathon now Sony will think, okay, we're not going to do multi-plat anymore for Marathon, or we're going to continue development on it as a multi-plat, or we're just going to release it on PlayStation and PS5, on PC. It's going to be interesting to see what route they take there. I don't know. I
can
that
see
massive...
I can see Marathon staying on Xbox, to be fair, because I think that the one thing that we have learned from Sony's experience over the last year is that clearly they're still moving forward with live service, but they know, as large swathes of the community had also sort of called out when it looked like Sony was going down this gas route, it's going to be a bit hit and miss. You're going to have some hits like Helldivers 2. It's still doing well on PC. It's still in the charts, in the MAU charts that we saw this week for was it last month? Is it June? I don't think it was. It's still there. It's still being played by a lot of people on PC. So that's a good sign for them. It's a good sign that their multi-plat strategy might have some legs to it. But similarly, there's also a lot of doubt around Concord. I think this is kind of maybe they're trying to avoid that sort of risk reward, but I don't really see how you avoid risk by laying off 200 odd people. It's
to me it's like a really strange thing, because when they bought Bungie, they were like really emphasizing, okay, we're gonna let Bungie operate on its own, we let them publish the games, make the decisions on which platforms to publish and so on. And now we've seen I mean, this wasn't the first layoff wave, right, that hit Bungie. They've
they had another one at the beginning
earlier
of the year,
this year, or was it in last year somewhere? A couple of months ago, they already laid off the first wave of people. Now they laid off the second wave of people, kind of move a lot of them into the main organization. Bungie said that one of their in development projects is now gonna be moved over to a different studio. It's going to be a new studio, has yet to be founded. And it really made me ask myself, so Marathon and the future of Destiny, right? With Marathon, we haven't seen anything from the game yet. And the game is supposed to come out next year. I mean, okay, Sony didn't have any showcase or anything, so and for them to reveal first time gameplay of Marathon just by a random like gameplay trailer drop is highly unlikely. But still, I'm not sure in how good of a state they are. I think Bungie was for them a strategic acquisition because they had this plan to move fully into gas, right? And with Bungie, they get a lot of technical know-how and how to do that. They've got a lot of strategic know-how, how to do that and support those games. But it clearly didn't work out because we learned that a couple of months ago that they basically canceled half of their games as service projects, right? They obviously don't really know the direction where they want to go with Destiny, which is their big franchise right now. Yeah, they announced, we're gonna close the Destiny 2 chapter now and then move on. Marathon was supposed to be the next big thing. There's literally zero hype around it. Nobody talks about that as an outlook. When people always say, PlayStation hasn't announced anything, it's actually not really true. Yeah, there are games like Marathon, but nobody thinks about it. So it's like kind of there's no interest around it in the grander scheme of things. And with them reducing the staff so significantly, I totally believe what Jeff Grubb posted earlier about Destiny 3 maybe being cancelled. And so I wonder if they are going to transform this entire Bungie organization into kind of like a support studio, for some of the upcoming online games. I don't know, but it definitely feels weird to me. And it's kind of sad to see because Bungie, the makers of Halo, right? And actually also Destiny is a phenomenal success. A little bit too stretched out over the years now. Yeah, they should have moved on to a Destiny 3 like a couple of years ago, but still Destiny is a beloved franchise and IP, and it kind of makes you wonder what's going on over there and what's the future.
Yeah, the thing that put me off Destiny over the years was just when they started to remove content from the game, and I think that was a lot of problems as well from a lot of the older players that had been on Destiny 1 and started Destiny 2, and then when they started removing actual story content and saying, no, it's no longer available to play ever. Even if you own it or bought it, it's gone. Like that was the tipping point for me to never play that game again. I was like, nope, like I'm not investing in something that will get removed. And they showed that is their thing. Or we can't support this story content that we put in the game because it's taking up too much space. Yeah. That's like, what kind of excuse is that when these several like massive MMOs that are consistently adding content forever, and they never remove anything? They're just consistently keeping everything that they've ever had and adding more. And then they're saying, "Oh, we'll remove content from it." That caused a lot of issues with the community. And then only this final shape has actually been successful as a DLC. The previous ones that they released were not successful at all. They were actually riding on this one becoming successful so that they could kind of recoup some of their image, because the last couple of DLCs prior to that weren't good, and they weren't taken to fans, and they had a lot of complaints about them. So it does make sense that there would be no Destiny 3 based on that, because they can't seem to have a consistent pipeline of DLC that is accepted by the community and hits it off and does well. And although there is a substantial player base still there, it's nowhere near the levels that it once was. And Sony now realizes well how much it costs to maintain a game like that. And it's especially when it's a live service game. That's why they cancelled Factions ultimately. They would have to have an entire studio working on that game permanently and all of its content permanently in order to keep it going. And they
Still
just
really
weren't
sad
willing
about
to invest in that. Yeah.
I wanted that game so badly. I really, really wanted Factions.
Yeah.
Well,
I don't know, like, but that's a whole other thing. But again, it's these strange decisions as well that we kind of look at with Sony. For me, is that these things like Factions, which was Naughty Dog's kind of choice, was okay. We're going to turn Factions into a standalone. If it should never have been, Factions should always have just been built into The Last of Us 2 as a multiplayer side section to that game, like you do with Gears, like you do with Halo. Like, granted, Halo's Infinite's multiplayer can now be played by itself without playing the campaign, but ultimately they were still developed hand in hand. They were still developed beside each other, and you can still play them as a set and as an entire core product together. Not a whole standalone game that you pay twice for, and then one of them's a live service game, the other one's a single player game. It should have just kept the original Last of Us Factions formula and released it in a nice new fuzzy funky way. Great. But I think the ultimate, and that's what I think wound fans up, because no fan of Factions wanted Factions to be what they set out to, what Naughty Dog set it out to be, which was a live service game. No, they just we just want a nice new version of the Factions we loved. That's ultimately all they wanted. And I think the Destiny 3 thing, I think that just boils down to the fact that they're looking at how much it's costing to maintain a game like Destiny. And now, obviously, with these side movements, we can't even say layoffs because they weren't ultimately laid off. It was more of a, okay, you're getting repositioned now. 75 of you are going here and 150 of you are going here. Okay, that's all of the staff are moved inwards. So they've all retained work. They've all retained jobs. They're all still at Sony, ultimately. So no one's out of work. No one's out of pocket. It's just a case of, like you say, sort of Bungie balancing their books. But I can't see how they would be able to kind of justify maintaining another brand new live service game. Ultimately, it's a
that brings up the question that Deadly Headley posed, right? What's going to happen with Marathon? Yeah, is it going to be like a Concord situation where people, I mean, let's face it, there's a very, very high chance that this game is dead on arrival. Yeah, I mean,
Concord, yeah, absolutely.
They announced this week, we are going to have like no battle pass in the game, which was received kind of well, but and that there's free post-launch content, but ultimately we know that this game is not going to be a success. I just don't see that Concord is going to be a success, and I feel like without having seen what Marathon actually is going to be, right, that this is a good chance that it succeeds, because this we talked about this before. That kind of market, the games as a service market, is kind of saturated.
Yep.
It's super hard these days to get into that market, because people have their games as a service title, right? Whether it's Fortnite or whether it's Warzone or whatever, there are tons of games as a service games out there, and if you're heavily invested and already spent, I don't know how much money already in, let's say, a Fortnite, yeah, how likely is it for you to leave that game alone and move into Concord, right? So,
very, very high risk, especially with how saturated the market is, how habit forming these games are as well, how social these games are too. Because ultimately, if you end up playing one specific game, like in my case, for example, I played Apex Legends for so long. I think I played it when it first came out. I can't remember when I dropped off, but I was on it for a long time. And I still think about going back, but I enjoy playing single player more than multiplayer these days. But I do miss it, and I would like to jump into it again. But it's like you've said, once you drop off of those live services, it's unlikely that you're going to go back. And if you've put quite a lot of money into one, like again Apex or Fortnite, for example, you jump into Concord, maybe your friends don't like it that much, or maybe you do like it, but you've gone, look, the Fortnite is the thing that we do every week. It's the thing that we all look forward to. It's the thing we're good at, and it's the thing we've spent way more money than any of us probably should have done. So we're probably going to go back there. Also, Call of Duty is basically free now in Game Pass too if you're on Xbox. So it's this competition for people's time is getting more and more difficult, and I think that's why I was really taken aback by Sony or more specifically Jim Ryan's Sony pursuing gas, because it just seems like you've come really late to that party if you want to start that now, because all the gas games that have already scooped up all the players, they're already competing for top 5 all the time. Like we're not going to slip in at number 6 and currently start making the big boy money.
Well. The funny thing is the gas games that they're creating aren't even something new or different. Like
no,
and you have to bring up Xbox with this, because at least with the gas games that they've created outside of your Halo, is Obsidian with Grounded, which is entirely different. It's a Honey I Shrunk the Kids kind of RPG, friends, create kind of that type of gas game.
Yeah, that's why Helldivers has done really well as well, though, because it's filled that gap that was clearly missing. It has been really popular, especially on PC. So again, that multiplayer strategy, when we look back at Marathon, I think a lot of I think Marathon will do quite well. I hope it does quite well. I'm actually really looking forward to it. I hope that they stick with the decision to put it on Xbox as well, because I think not just because I want to play it, but actually I could play it on my PS5 if I wanted to. But Xbox is my preferred platform. I think that's besides the point, though. It's just that game needs to be on as many platforms as possible to be able to monetize itself as efficiently as possible. It's also I think it's probably going to be a paid release. They've certainly not talked about it being a free-to-play game or anything like that. Too. It's all of these
also,
things.
Also, again, the problem with Concord, right? If that would be free-to-play, chances would probably be higher that it gets viral.
So I think that we all thought that as well, but with an open beta available to everybody, even with an open beta that was free for people to try, they still had a maximum on PC, had a maximum of 3,000 people playing it, which is like if you're going to get people interested, on an open beta is the way to do it. And if you've only got 3,000 people playing it, the chances of people actually investing £40 in that game is next to zero.
Yeah.
So I think I think the thought of that, people just automatically probably went into it thinking, you know what it is, this game's going to be £40. I'm not even going to think about trying this game because there's so many games like it that are already out. I'm not even going to give it a shot. And then you've seen, as you mentioned as well, though, Headley, with being multi-plat and needing that. We saw with Sea of Thieves more recently, of course. Xbox said, listen, we've got as many players as we can out of the Xbox and PC community now for Sea of Thieves, so we'll start going over to PlayStation with that. And ultimately, they still had 40-odd million before they went over to PlayStation on Sea of Thieves. It's insane. But again, that's an entirely different type of game as a live service game, as a games as a service. So I think the problem with this is Marathon and Concord, and it's all these arena-y, shooter-y games, and it's like you need to, if you're going to do gas, you have to diversify. You have to do something a little bit new that people haven't played before to interest them. Because if you're going to keep going down the shooter thing, people are just going to be like, I've already got Fortnite or Apex or PUBG or Warzone or Overwatch, exactly, or there's so Valorant. You know what I mean? There's so many arena shooter games now that it's just like, no, I've got mine. Like I'll try it, but the likelihood of me actually continuing to play this game is next to zero. And that's I think that's Sony's problem. Ultimately, it's they don't know how to really, for their own first party, look at diversification outside of the market trends. They're just like, they've got the Spidey for the single player. They've got the Last of Us, the games. They've got the Uncharted, the God of Wars, the Horizons. They've got it's good to see Astrobot getting its own game, like actual full-fledged game. But so people want a new IP, and ultimately, if you're going to do gas, they want something that's going to interest them, something entirely new. And I think that is probably their biggest downfall when it looks at these gas games going forward. It isn't capturing the imagination of people. No one's interested in them enough to, like, no, as you've mentioned, we know Marathon's coming, but nobody mentions Marathon. Nobody mentions Marathon on games that are like they're super looking forward to for the next year. No one mentions Concord of games that they're super looking forward to for next year. It's because it's just the same as many others that are available. Unfortunately, it's just not grabbing people.
So let's see how Marathon is going to do. And what it's actually going to be like, right? We don't know much about it. So, but let us move on to something else, and let's talk about Xbox.
Yes.
Real quick, because we learned about the latest sales numbers, and they had their revenue call. Satya talked about the gaming division, and Amy Hood talked about it. We learned that the overall gaming hardware revenue for the last quarter compared to last year grew again by 44%. Of course, a lot of it was actually due to ABK now being part of it. But even taking ABK out of the equation, the gaming revenue still grew 3%, which is kind of a good thing in the current market situation. Right? But hardware sales, Xbox hardware sales, are down 42%. Again, it was a very similar number last year. Overall, Microsoft had announced that they have now more than 500 million active monthly users, which is a quite impressive number. And by the way, Fallout playtime jumped 5 times after the TV show. So, what do you guys make of these numbers? Do you think the Xbox division is in a good spot here? Where do you think they kind of need to improve? Headley, let's hear your thoughts first.
It's an interesting one because I think it reads like a mixed bag in that hardware sales
Yeah.
reflect quite poorly. But I think the fact that games and services have all gone up, and not obviously because of ABK as well, but when you take ABK out of the equation, these things are still growing. And I think it's also worth contextualizing this with the fact that the start of this year has been quite quiet for Xbox. Like we're kind of waiting for those big cadences to hit towards the end of the year, like we talked earlier in the show about games like Avowed, Indiana Jones, Stalker, the Starfield DLC, Call of Duty. Like all of this stuff coming to Game Pass is going to appeal to that wider audience, and hopefully move console hardware as well. I think um, the other helpful insight to bear in mind is that Microsoft have repeated this point, and I hear this on other podcasts as well. Mobile is an important, or mobile and cloud are a growth factor for them that they are concerned about. They do want to grow into. It's the reason why they've started working closely with Amazon for the Fire Stick app and that sort of thing. I think it'll be interesting to see how those cloud services specifically change in sort of next. It's going to be next quarter rather than next month, isn't it? So
Yeah.
quarterly update.
You think
Yeah,
the cloud stuff, especially with Amazon Fire now, is really going to help them grow?
it's a tough one because I personally don't think that I do think that Xbox should be looking at a cloud only subscription for that if they're going to try and grow that, because I don't think that the full whack of Ultimate without having native hardware, don't think that's worth it. I don't think that value proposition is there, especially when you start playing multiplayer games. It's not great on cloud, but the single player I think feels okay. It doesn't feel perfect. You can feel that latency there, and that's kind of why I don't think Ultimate at full price is necessarily worth it for just cloud on its own. So whether or not they actually grow there, I think is going to be quite tough. But obviously, like the PC market is really important to them as well. We might see that Call of Duty does quite well on Game Pass for PC if players are currently buying it through Steam. I'm guessing you can buy COD on Steam, right? I don't play on PC at all. If you hadn't gathered that, I want to, but just haven't made that jump yet. I think if you've got guys who religiously buy Call of Duty every year but like playing other games and specifically like playing a lot of the games that Xbox makes, we could see big things for PC Game Pass across the board with that as well. It's a strange one, mixed bag, like we said. The hardware thing, it probably concerns the people following the industry more so than it does. I'm sure they're not happy about the fact the hardware hasn't grown, because obviously it's the best place that someone can jump into if they want to experience everything that the Xbox ecosystem has to offer, and they don't have a PC. But I think hopefully that movement is going to come when we see some more of the first party content come this year, assuming it's marketed properly.
I mean, it's the consoles are still a great entry point for a lot of people. I'm not seeing the same thing with Fire TV, because I don't get me wrong, I like that it's an option there for already existing users. But I just don't see people sitting on the Fire TV stick, subscribe to a €17 a month subscription service, then go to Amazon, buy a controller to check it out. That's like it's kind of hard to see that as an entry point. That someone who isn't a customer yet, just sits there at his TV, buys a controller, and then subscribes to the service for that price just to check it out. It's like, on the other hand, when you have a console, people know what they're getting. Yeah, you get this little box there, you plug it into the TV, and once you have that box sitting there, you're more likely to try things out. Yeah, so even if it's sitting there for like 2 months, oh man, I haven't used this box that I paid like whatever amount of money for, and I need to play again or something. Like, it's the console really is a good entry point for a lot of gamers, and with the Series S being a great value proposition there, I think the focus definitely should be more on console. Maybe that's just me speaking because I'm a console fan. I do have a gaming PC, yes, but if I have the option, I prefer console gaming. And yeah, it's kind of also hard for me to really see, and maybe I'm wrong, where Game Pass on PC is going to take them. Because what we've seen on PC is that people, even though the value proposition is with Game Pass, people kind of still lean towards Steam. That's where they have their friends. That's where they have their already existing library. So I think that's why, in my opinion, it's probably not the smartest thing to move away from the focus on trying to get a good install base in the console space, right? And that is kind of reflected by the sales numbers now again, yeah. And of course, this is going to go down even further, yeah, and it's going to continue to decrease. It's gonna put up the question eventually at Microsoft: is it worth releasing the console in every market? Yeah, especially when you look at the numbers around here in Europe. Yeah, are we going to back to the Xbox One days, where for the first 2 years a lot of European countries didn't even get the console release, right? It obviously kind of is the concern there. It just becomes less and less relevant. It doesn't mean that Xbox is doing well overall, because they're going to sell their games on Steam. That's cool, yeah. But for the console space, yeah, I'm not really that surprised though, because like you said, if you look what Xbox has put up until this point in time, let's be real, for this entire generation, it isn't what they wanted to do, right? Yeah, you had the occasional good releases. Last year we had Starfield, but then in 2022 we didn't have anything. In the first year of the console, they didn't have anything. Then they had Halo and Forza Horizon, yeah, but it's not like they are there at this point where you can say, okay, we can trust in Microsoft to release in a regular cadence quality games. They're just not there yet. It's coming now. This holiday season, we talked about it, yeah, is kind of that starting point where they have that cadence, where they have apparently actually too many games there, so they kind of have to move some stuff out, like Avowed. But the general customer just looks at, okay, if I buy that now, what can I play? Yeah, and indie isn't there yet, and then Call of Duty isn't there yet. Well, Modern Warfare 3 just launched there, but obviously that's not reflected in any numbers that they presented yesterday. So, yeah, to the regular customer, the value proposition is probably just not there yet. Yeah, and let's see if that, as soon as this holiday season is over, if that is reflected in actual hardware sales.
I think it also doesn't help that you know, the vast majority of people that are playing on consoles, they're still playing games like GTA Online,
Yeah.
which is hell, you could still play on that. You could still play that on the 360 if you wanted,
Yeah,
right?
yeah.
You've got Fortnite, you've got Call of Duty, which, you know, because Microsoft owns, they're helped a lot by that now, because every Call of Duty sale, regardless of where it comes from, some of it is going into Microsoft's pocket. So it's a long-term benefit that they're going to get from just materializing a Call of Duty game every year. or every other year, depending on how that falls going forward. What we don't have is a big tentpole title. You'd think that Starfield actually would have been that title. I understand why it wasn't. I think it still did a hell of a lot of good for Xbox overall. But I think if Starfield was Elder Scrolls, for example, you had that known quantity of a new Elder Scrolls game, or the successor to Skyrim launching on Xbox consoles and Xbox consoles only, you probably would have seen a bigger jump in users there. When games like GTA 6 come out, or when Call of Duty is only launched on this generation of hardware, I think we'll see a lot more. It's also worth bearing in mind that console hardware hasn't dropped down in price. Usually by now, at this point in the generation, you would expect that to be a lot cheaper, and that just hasn't happened. And we're still in the middle of a cost of living crisis. I don't think it's entirely Xbox's doing, but obviously they haven't helped themselves in terms of the cadence of games that has not been there, the lack of interesting first-party content that hasn't necessarily sort of hit where it should critically either. Things like Redfall, for example, like they put some eggs in that basket and they shouldn't have done because it didn't work out for them. It's been a tough generation broadly, I think. Like it's a really, really odd one. I feel like the hardware's good, but the games and the sort of organization and sense of all of it is kind of just hit and miss. This gen.
Yeah, I would say ultimately the same as well when it comes to the hardware. I think we have to look at their current messaging now as well as partly to blame for the current situation, because for months and months they've been telling people you don't need to buy an Xbox. You don't need to buy an Xbox. You can just get this stick and you can play it on the cloud, or you can buy this and just get it on PC. It's fine. You don't have to buy an Xbox. Just get it on PC or play it on the cloud. So why? Why are you telling people not to buy an Xbox? There is no reason to just say there's more places to play. You don't need to put out a big advertisement for the Fire Stick and say, don't worry, don't buy an Xbox, play it on Fire Stick. No, just say now you can play Xbox on a Fire Stick. You don't say don't buy an Xbox.
Because I think it's like, so I work in marketing and advertising. I understand why they've done it. I understand why they've sort of done something to kind of be a little bit provocative and sort of, you kind of hit the nail on the head there, Dutch, in saying, why don't, instead of saying you don't need an Xbox, just say you can play your Xbox on this, or you can play Xbox games on this. A consumer may well read that and go, I don't have an Xbox, so I don't know if I can play that. Or I don't own any Xbox games, so I don't know if I can play that. This strategy for me really is about introducing people into the Xbox ecosystem without the barrier of entry for hardware. And I think telling someone that you don't need hardware in order to get past the barrier of entry for buying hardware is quite important when you want to get them in across that barrier. But obviously for people who, like ourselves, who do think that the console is the best stepping stone into that ecosystem, we fundamentally disagree with that logic. But there's also an argument to say that there's a whole new generation of Gen Alpha kids or younger Gen Z kids who don't really care about the experience. They just want to play the game regardless of where it is. And Xbox is having to navigate all of these different markets, all of these different users, some of which may have PlayStation consoles already and therefore have a Bluetooth controller, and may also have the compatible Fire Stick. So like, really the only thing they need to do is sign up for what is it, 2 weeks of Game Pass, or you get like a free trial still, right? I can't remember.
I think so.
I haven't signed up to Game Pass in a really long time. I've just been part of the furniture since 20.
Like it's £1 for a month or something.
Yeah. So if you've already got a Fire Stick, you've already got a PS5 controller, and you see an advert that goes, "Oh, you can play Xbox games using a Bluetooth controller," and I think they need to be a little bit I actually think Xbox should be a little bit more heavy-handed there because, like, they've got an Xbox controller in their Xbox ads. That makes perfect sense. But I actually think the way you make that really, really clear is by not using an Xbox controller, because you don't want someone to think that they need a thing that they don't have in order to play the thing that you're basically telling them they don't need to buy anything for. It's a really tough one.
Yeah, and I think ultimately, but I think that's in part though down to why the likes of the hardware is down though, is because of that messaging. But also just their severe lack of marketing the console anyway this generation. It's just like, you can't expect, like me and Boxy been saying for a while, the UK in Europe, like Xbox is just not marketed. Like, it isn't. There's just nothing to say that the Xbox ultimately exists for all other than those who are hardcore like us that know it exists. Outside of that, they're casual. If they didn't know a new Xbox was coming out, they wouldn't even know that thing existed in the first place. And there isn't anything like when new games get shown off. I've saw the Fallout TV series advert on sides of buses more than I have any of the games that have released for Xbox this generation, including like Starfield, like you mentioned. Although it was a new IP, that was still the big one, and they should have went absolutely everywhere with that, and they didn't.
Yeah, agreed.
And I think ultimately we're all laughing and joking about Call of Duty, but I still, unless it's left to Activision to advertise that thing, I still don't think Xbox will advertise it and take advantage of that situation either. I just I don't see that happening.
Yeah, me too. Call of Duty will be advertised. I've no doubt about that.
But just not for
but
Xbox.
Not towards Xbox, exactly. Yeah.
We saw that as well on the Call of Duty thing. Actually, if you have a look at kind of the way Activision and Call of Duty have marketed the new Black Ops, it doesn't mention, like, none of it mentions Game Pass on the actual Call of Duty marketing.
Yeah.
Only Xbox talk about Game Pass. Like the Call of Duty segment, the Activision segment, they just don't mention it. They're just like pre-order Call of Duty today, and that's fine because they want their sales naturally. But they just don't mention Xbox. They don't mention Game Pass or anything. So it's clear that the strategy probably won't be. You can play. Look at this. You can play Call of Duty on Xbox using Game Pass. Look at this.
Yeah.
Just not what it should.
They should be shouting it from every rooftop, right? Just,
exactly.
You can play it everywhere, but you want to play it here. You really, really want to play it here. Because it's cheaper and it's better for reasons.
Yeah, have the PlayStation symbol, but have the PlayStation symbol smack bang beside the Game Pass symbol, and be like, what the hell? It's on Game Pass or PlayStation. I'll just play it on Game Pass if it save myself some money.
First, you have to tell people what Game Pass actually is, because
I feel and like that's not advertised either.
Yeah. So just putting the logo on.
That should be your opportunity, shouldn't it? Like, Call of Duty should be your opportunity to tell people what Game Pass is. But it may end up panning out.
The two games that you could realistically make a big dent in a Game Pass, it would either be Call of Duty or GTA.
Yeah.
And you're not getting GTA on Game Pass. You do have Call of Duty, so make the most of it. But I just don't see that happening. They're the only two games that could make a severe dent in the subscriber numbers and actually get some subscribers there and shift some hardware specifically to Xbox to play it on Xbox on Game Pass.
Yeah.
Like a Call of Duty Series S bundle should fly off shelves.
Yep.
It's such a cheap point of entry.
Yeah.
And it's at least everybody's playing it and they're getting it on Game Pass.
That's why I don't think they should be doing a last gen Call of Duty this year. I don't think they should be. I think you keep it current gen only because it gives you that opportunity to move hardware. But I get completely that they also just really want the player numbers and the microtransaction money that comes with it. Why would you turn that down for the sake of hopefully shifting console hardware units? But your current Xbox users, they could end up buying a PS5 because they fancy a change and can play the new Call of Duty on that. But inversely, you may also get a bunch of PS4 owners who go, I don't really want to pay 70 quid a year for Call of Duty anymore, when I could pay just over 3 times that and get like 200 times the games. It's
and I think
I don't know. I think they should put users in that position. But
I think going back to the Game Pass and cloud thing as well is people. I think when we're talking about the amount of games that are on there, it is you have to have the big statement titles to get the
Yeah.
casuals interested in whatever this
Mhm.
service is, because we can shout from the rooftops how great Dungeons of Hinterberg is, or how Still Wakes the Deep is, or Flintlock's cool, and X, Y, and Z, and all these games, but no one's going to try any of these titles that are on Game Pass because that's not going to entice the casuals. The casual seeing Dungeons of Hinterberg on the Game Pass, they're not going to be like, "What the hell's that? Like, what's Game Pass?" Like, no, they're not like Call of Duty. Sweet, play that on there. Like this
Yeah.
game, sweet, play that on there. These big statement titles are the only ones that the casuals are interested in, and they'll only try the smaller ones if you get them into Game Pass in the first place. So it's all well and good having these hundreds of games in there, but outside of the hardcore minority, like we are, we're the ones trying these other games because we
Yeah.
are invested in Game Pass. But
Yeah.
to try and interest people in Game Pass, you need statement titles to interest them in, and Call of Duty
Yeah.
is that moment.
Mhm.
But ultimately, are they going to leverage it? And I just don't think they will. And
I think those seeds are being sown. So I think like my co-host Gamsley has talked about this a lot, in that this is going to take more than one Call of Duty release. It's going to take 2 or 3
yeah,
to really try and turn the oil tanker around. Maybe even a few Call of Duty games plus a new generation of hardware, where you've now got a generation of PS5 owners who can look at their PS5 and go, okay, this plays most of the games that I can also get on Xbox in terms of third party stuff. Yeah, there's some first party stuff. Maybe the first party stuff on PlayStation doesn't interest me. And the thing that I play more than anything else is Call of Duty. There's so many people like that.
yeah,
That's the majority of the console market. They're not actually that interested by first party games. The third parties is where they're going, and all the charts prove that as well. When you have a new generation of console launch, you've seen several Call of Duty games come into a service like Game Pass. It's seeding that ground for your audience to then shift when they want to
Move on.
shift.
Yeah.
It's yeah, these things take a lot of time.
They
I
do
think
take a lot of time, and
they
I
do.
still think it's not just Call of Duty alone won't do the trick. Yeah, it's
Mhm.
the combination of having a lot of other stuff in a regular cadence in there.
Mhm.
It, and
And
yeah,
Call of Duty becomes your gateway drug for all the
yeah,
other stuff
yeah,
exactly.
that is in
For the
Game
other
Pass as
all the
well,
other
because
stuff, yeah, exactly.
yeah,
Yeah,
because
it's
the
also
value proposition is the amount of content that comes into Game
exactly.
Pass, not
Yeah,
just the big staple titles. They obviously play a key role in that, but
yeah,
they're there to get as many people through the door as possible. Once you're in and you see what's on offer, it's you not wanting to leave is how they keep you.
yeah,
yeah.
exactly. And it'll take them a while. Yeah, it takes a couple of years to prove to customers and quite frankly also the media that report on it, right? Okay, we are here and we can support it continuously with quality games.
Hmm.
And so far, that's just not there yet. Yeah, but if rumors are true, like you said, next console launch around 26, yeah, and they have released a Call of Duty in there in 24, and they have a great 24 with all these games, and 25 is shaping up to be really good. And if you launch a console then in 26, and still
Especially
have
if they end up launching a handheld with the newest Call of Duty in a game subscription service, it's going to tick a lot of boxes.
oh yeah, totally agree, totally agree. All right. Since we are on the subject of sales numbers and subscriber numbers and stuff like that, we also learned something about Sony this week. Um, their PS Plus subscription, uh, especially the highest tier, the PS Plus Extra, lost again 48% of players in July. They also lost 42% in June. Um, so that's for the PS Plus Extra and the PS Plus Premium, so the highest and the middle tier. Um, it doesn't look good for their subscription service apparently either. I mean, I would say like it's not the same value that Game Pass provides, because the major difference is, of course, the day one releases, right? Um, since Xbox didn't have that many day one releases over the last 3 years, yeah.
Mm.
In 22, they didn't have any major releases. Last year, they had two with Forza and Starfield, and so far this year they only had Hellblade. You can't really argue that there's such a huge difference in there, because a lot of third-party games and indie games are as well in PS Plus, but apparently it doesn't pull people in. Yeah, they are losing numbers in a big way. I mean, 48% down is quite significant. Yeah. So I
Mm.
wanted to hear your thoughts on this. Well, what's going on over there at PlayStation with the subscriber numbers?
For me,
Go on, Dutch. I'll let you take this one.
yeah, I was going to say for me specifically for PS Plus, and again, it's because it's my secondary console, but I don't. Like, I get extra. Premium has zero value proposition to me. It's zero.
Yeah.
Like I have to pay to play old games, like really old games, like PS3 and PS2 games, and like that's not a value proposition. Like that should just be I should just be able to play these old games that I own. Like that's charging more for that premium service. It just doesn't provide anything. I can understand people dropping down from premium to extra, because at least with extra you get a catalogue of games that have come out over on PS4 and PS5 that you can play. And ultimately that's what I do from time to time. I'll subscribe for a month. I'll play one of the new games that's dropped on there that I didn't pick up. It might have been a Miles Morales or something at the time, or a Death Stranding or something like that. A game that I didn't really want to buy and have in my portfolio games, and I want to try and I want to see if I actually pick it up on sale. But ultimately, I think the vast majority of people just want the cheapest method of getting online play for their favorite titles, and whether that be Sony's titles or otherwise, you have to have a subscription to PS Plus in some way, shape, or form in order to get cloud saves. So, which is insane.
Yeah.
So I think the vast majority of people have probably just dropped way off extra and premium and just got the absolute essentials package and just said, yes, we'll get just the basics. So I can play online, I can chat to my friends, and I can get my cloud saves, and that's all I need. I don't need all of this other stuff, because I play Fortnite and I play Call of Duty and I play PUBG and I play, like, these are the games that I play. I play FIFA. I don't need anything but online play for these things, ultimately. So I don't need this catalogue of games that I'm never going to play. And and then you've got the cost of living crisis that's going into it as well. Is the fact that these services have to justify your money and justify your time. And if you're not getting worth and value out of that, then you go to the cheapest version of that service that you can find in order to continue with that service. And I think that's ultimately what's happening here. I think they're just downgrading to the lowest package in order to maintain line connectivity.
Yeah. Italy, what are your thoughts?
It's so we're not privy to this information and behaviors on Xbox's side. It'd be interesting to know if there is a similar reflection there. But I think largely the noises, like we've just said, seem to be quite positive for services. So my instinct would be that it's still doing okay on that side of the fence. I think it largely comes down to value proposition, and obviously that's really where Game Pass shines in terms of having those day one titles and that first party content. I think in that respect, it's good to see that first party content from Microsoft is really appreciated, because clearly it helps play into that value proposition there. I've not been enticed to stay on PS Plus. I when I first got my PS5, so for a little bit of context, I was out of the PlayStation ecosystem from back when I had my PS2 right up until August 2022, which is when I got a PS5. So I missed PS3 and PS4 entirely.
I'm not too similar. I picked up the PS4 Pro at the almost tail end of that. Yeah.
Yeah. So I didn't. I had some first party titles to catch up on, which was really nice, and I jumped into PS Plus to be able to enjoy a load of those. I then, and it's partly because there's too much content. We've really complained that there are too many games to play. That's very very true. There are too many good games to play. It's like the best worst first world problem that you could
Yeah.
have. It's it's brilliant, but it sucks. And there are games that I need to go back and play, and I'd quite happily subscribe instead of buying them. Like I didn't buy Ghost of Tsushima, but I got access to the director's cut. Could quite happily go back and resubscribe, play through the director's cut, and be quite happy doing that. I don't necessarily need to own all my games. I don't mind owning games. I quite like owning games, but I don't feel this compulsion to go and buy games so much anymore because I think my buying habits have changed thanks to something like Game Pass. Um, I, I think Xbox is having this luxury of Game Pass becoming this sort of service that's become ubiquitous with the Xbox brand name. It does feel like the Netflix of gaming when you're in that ecosystem. I can't say the same about PS Plus. It just doesn't do that.
Yeah.
It would be interesting to see how well PS Plus does in September. I want to say September 3rd because the Quidditch multiplayer game that is launching on their day one, and that could give it quite a strong player injection. Again, Concord is launching on there as well. I would really like to see Sony put more of its first party content on their day one. I do think it would do quite well. And I think it could help increase player numbers jumping into their first party content because the majority of their players are still playing third party stuff. I don't know. Yeah.
I think the difference. My thing is that the difference between the two platforms to me has always been apparent anyway. PlayStation is ultimately, and as much as they hate hearing this, PlayStation is ultimately the casuals console.
Yeah.
Because it's the common denominator. It's what everybody refers to as a gaming console when they think of gaming consoles. Xbox is more of a hardcore ecosystem because it isn't advertised as much, and you really have to go out and find one if you really want one to go and get an Xbox. It's not one that's like on the tip of everybody's tongue. Some people know what an Xbox is, but ultimately across Europe, Xbox is almost non-existent. Whereas everybody knows a PlayStation, everybody knows a Nintendo, and ultimately when you're thinking about gaming, the first thing your relatives will say is, "Oh, he's playing on the PlayStation or he's playing on the Nintendo." Like Xbox is probably one of the last things they'll say when it comes to gaming. And PlayStation's core audience has always been the casual. It's the one that everybody picks up.
Yeah.
It's one that most people's friends have got. So ultimately, when they get the next console, it's not a case of am I getting an Xbox or a PlayStation. It's my friend's got a PlayStation, so I'll get a PlayStation. Mm-hmm. Not because they're actually looking at what is good between the two. It's just because the friend has one. So ultimately, that's just transcended over time as everyone has a PlayStation, so I'll just get a PlayStation.
Yeah.
And they're not the hardcores. They're not the people that are looking at specs and looking at what does what and what games are what. It's just my friend has one, so I'll get one. So ultimately, their audience is casual. So the trends that they have to focus on is that audience is primarily Call of Duty, Fortnite, etc. And the same can be said, of course, for Xbox, but there is more of an emphasis there of a lot of these first-party games are doing bigger numbers when it comes to the likes of Sea of Thieves and Grounded and Starfield and Forza. They're doing the 10s and 20 and 30 and 40 million players on the console because that system is more of a hardcore ecosystem around first party, whereas the PlayStation one, we see the opposite, 120 plus million consoles, and the first party's doing 10 or 20 million units, which is
the attach rate is significantly lower. Yeah. You bring up a good point. I was about to say something very similar. Like you said, it's a casual console. A lot of people buy it for their yearly Call of Duty or FIFA sessions or whatever. Yeah. Are you likely to subscribe to PS Plus premium subscription? Probably not.
Mm.
And then I think it's a combination of a couple of things. The other thing is with PS Plus from Sony has always felt like an afterthought, right?
Yeah.
We've seen so many statements from them where you just can tell they are not really behind a subscription service. For them, the business is selling games at full price. Yeah. And you can tell that. You see, occasionally there are good games coming to them, to the service. Yeah, of course. Third-party games that have been out for a year or longer. It's not that there is no value there, but you can tell that they are not really truly believing in a subscription service, while Xbox is really fully behind that.
Mhm.
That's the one thing they bring across really well, in my opinion, is when you buy an Xbox console, it kind of comes along with with Game Pass, right? It really doesn't make any sense to own an Xbox console and not subscribing to Game Pass.
Mhm.
It's they have a very dedicated view on that. Okay, we are committed to making it the Netflix of gaming, and that's just not there. So I'm not really surprised at all. And then the other thing is, of course, when you look at the cost of living crisis and everything, like I don't know, 5 subscription services or so. I have Game Pass, of course. I have Spotify. I have Netflix. I have Disney Plus for the kids, and I have,
Yeah.
and sometimes for daddy, and Amazon, and like, but and I had to cancel a couple of those, yeah, because it's just became too much. I'm not consuming enough out of all these services. So
It's like the cost
Yeah.
of a game every month for like billions of movies and series that I never actually watch.
yeah,
Yeah. All of which end up eating into game time. You could quite
also,
easily be making the
yeah,
most of
yeah,
it. Yeah.
and so like overall, you kind of have to. A lot of people are reevaluating this situation. Yeah, when subscription services came up over the last couple of years across all entertainment platforms, from music to TV to gaming, now it kind of really does not make sense to subscribe to as many as you do. Yeah, if I would be living on my own, I would be subscribed to one TV streaming service. It's literally just because my wife is watching a lot of Netflix, so we have Netflix as well, and the kids love Disney, and that's why we have Disney. But overall, you kind of have to think about that, right? And then the value proposition just doesn't feel the same. Yeah, it
Mm.
really doesn't. Even with what I mentioned earlier, the kind of lack of first party releases in Game Pass, you can still have, especially for the hardcore gamers. Yeah, you have those kind of releases. Yeah, Dungeons of Hinterberg and Flintlock and so on. They might not make the big headlines, but for the core gamers, those are genuine options to play games. Yeah, and a game and provide an actual value to Game Pass, which the more casual based PlayStation owner, of course, there are hard costs there as well, but again, a wide audience is more in the casual space, just doesn't see the value in games like that. Yeah, so um, I'm not really surprised, especially since it's always been like an afterthought. So, but anything you guys want to add before we move on to something I've been very excited to talk to you about?
I don't think
No,
so.
I don't think so. I think people are going to. Yeah, I was going to say. I think people. I hope people don't sleep on Towerbomb when it comes out, because I've been raving about that, and
Indeed.
everyone needs to play it.
Yeah.
Don't sleep on Towerbomb.
When is that coming? That's fairly
I
soon,
think
isn't
we'll
it?
find out at Gamescom,
Yeah.
because
Okay.
they're doing a stream and things like that. So I think they're going to tell us. But it's they've already said on Twitter it is 100% this year still.
Okay.
So
Nice.
I think Gamescom will find out that date. Thank God, because when I played it on closed beta, it was ultimately flawless, and I could play pretty much most, if not all, of the game. And it was really good fun. And I was surprised that it didn't already have a release date by the state that I played it in.
Yeah.
Okay.
Because it felt like it could have released at that point. It would have been great. It's hopefully Gamescom we find out, which is not long, a couple of weeks.
Yeah. I mean, we played it last year at Gamescom already.
Yes, we did. Yeah.
Yeah, you're right. Towerborn. Looking forward to that. All right, guys. What I actually wanted to talk to you guys about is this week was the time, finally, the 360 store shut down, right? Xbox 360 basically is no more. And I wanted to take that as an opportunity. 19 years after the 360 came out, launched in 2005, so 19 years now. They shut down the 360 store for good. I mean, they have announced that like a year ago or so it didn't really come as a surprise. People were prepared, and the games you own you can still download, especially via backcompat and everything. But still, kind of an era has ended, and I wanted to make it a topic here to reminisce with you guys a little bit about the 360 generation and the 360 store in particular, of course, because for me, the 360 store was the store that made me an all-digital guy, right? First downloads of games there, fell in love with the convenience, and ever since I'm an all digital guy, and I still believe that the 360 generation, the PS3 and 360 generation, is probably the best gen we've had to date, right?
Yeah.
So many memories. So yeah, you kind of. How are you guys feeling about the store shutting down? Kind of. What are some of the highlights that you remember? Let's talk a little bit about the 360. Who wants to go first?
Go.
Are we back?
We're back. We're back. I don't know.
I'm back. I've changed positions, but I'm back.
We're back. Good. Okay.
Are we still live as well?
Yep, still going.
Yes, we
Okay, cool.
We're still going. Yeah.
It's the good thing about OBS is we can just, if this thing refreshes, we can just go, okay.
Okay, nice.
All right. So, yeah, how you guys feeling about the 360 store closing, and what are some of your highlights from that era?
Headley, you first.
So I wasn't much of a digital collector back in the 360 days. I was still quite happy playing with physical discs. I think this was really, I think Xbox as a platform was really the space where I went hardcore into the multiplayer route. Like I loved playing multiplayer games, and the ecosystem that we had on the Xbox 360 was spectacular for that. Big highlights for me, it was Halo's golden era for a start. Like we had Halo 3, we had Halo Reach, we had ODST, and we had Halo 4 all on that gen as well.
Gears 1, 2, 3.
Yeah, Gears 1, 2, and 3. A lot going on with Call of Duty there as well. With Fable.
We had 2 Elder Scrolls games in one gen.
Yeah. It was a great gen. A great gen, just such an amazing variety of games.
Deadly, you can't tell me you missed out on 1 versus 100.
Oh, I think I played it a couple of times. I think I did play it. I don't think I played it very much, but I think I
Did you
did
play
play it.
Doritos Crash Course?
The what Crash Course?
Doritos Crash Course. It was a free
No.
Xbox Live Arcade. Oh, it
Oh, wait. Hold on.
was like Takeshi's Castle.
It rings a bell. I might have done. I may have done. It does ring a bell. It does ring a bell. Yeah, you're asking. It's taking me back now.
Yeah.
It feels like it was such a long gen as well. Probably because I think time moved a little bit slower back then. But
Yeah.
what was it? 2005 to 2000. Was it 2011?
13.
13.
8 years. 8
Okay,
years,
so
yeah.
it's fairly long gen then.
Yeah,
Fairly
it
long
was a
gen.
fairly long gen, but
Yeah.
with such massively impactful IPs. Mass Effect.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah.
1, 2, 3. Oblivion, and I mentioned already Elder Scrolls, Oblivion and Skyrim. You had the Arkham series, right? You had, like you said, the Xbox highlights with Halo and Gears and Fable, for that matter, right? We still had Fable back in the days. You had awesome online stuff like 1 versus 100. It's still so hard. Xbox is trying to focus so much on community, right? So why not bring back 1 versus 100? It's like
that was hilarious, and everybody won things like, and everyone keeps championing it, but especially us older folk that were there in the early days of 1 versus 100, you just jump on it was every couple of nights it would be on, and they'd be like, okay, like the winners would win like a couple of 100 points or a couple of 1,000 points, or this arcade game or this game, and it got people interested to do just general trivia, and then you see all your friends sitting around in this lobby and hundreds of people. Like, this is, you only miss it when it's not there anymore, and that's one of the things. You don't realize how great that was until it's not there.
Get Connect as well, because Connect debuted on the 360
Remember Milo?
too, and yeah. Oh, Molyneux. So close yet so far.
Yeah.
I do.
Should have stayed with Fable though.
Right. Yeah, there was a lot of ambition that generation, I think. Like, it really did just sort of take gaming to this new level where it became far more of like the household hobby, in terms of sort of the uptake of gaming, the popularity of gaming. I feel like something really special happened with that gen, not just with the 360, but the PS3, the Wii as well. Sold crazy numbers that gen too. It just, a really amazing period of time for video games for sure.
Definitely. I think you bring up a great point, because during that gen, modern day gaming got defined. You know, it's not just how we played games that we started to really play online. Yeah, Halo 2 on the OG Xbox was my first online console experience, but it was just that game, right? While it's during the 360 gen, all of the stuff that we know about modern gaming kind of became the standard. And it's not just about online play, also how the games are designed, right? Open world games, like we know them today, have been introduced during that gen.
GTA 5.
GTA 5 was spectacular on the 360. It was so good.
The way how we play shooters on console. The modern day control mechanics have been introduced during that gen. The way how RPGs are designed today have been introduced during that gen. It's like this entire generation was about really moving the medium of video games one step forward. And that's why it felt so special. Yeah, we haven't played a game before like a Mass Effect on a console before it came out. We haven't seen an online console shooter take off like Halo 3. Yes, Halo 2 was popular, but the online part was still like, who played online on console during that time? Yeah. But
Hmm.
with that, it was something different, right? Hard drives got introduced, installing a games. When you remember back in the day, GameCube generation, the OG Xbox, PlayStation 2 generation, it was totally normal to play the games just right off of the disc, right?
Hmm.
But you have to
Yeah.
install that on a console, and the disc
That
is
was
basically
the Xbox One generation we had to install. We could still play off discs in the 360, couldn't we? Could
Yeah,
we? Yeah,
a
the
lot of
Xbox
games
One, yeah.
had to be installed.
on the 360.
360, yeah.
I remember.
I think games like Call of Duty did.
Okay.
Some of the big games, yeah, some of the big ones had to be installed. But some of the smaller ones, I don't think. Yeah, some of the smaller ones didn't, like the Gears and things like that didn't at the time. But I think Call of Duty and GTA, I think, had to be installed as well.
Gotcha. I always remember the that little wireless USB wireless network adapter
Yeah.
that you had to buy and stick in the back because wireless tech wasn't quite as ubiquitous as it is now. It just madness when we look back. But yeah, those were the days. It does feel quite ancient now, almost 20 years on, but it just at the time it just pioneered. I can't believe it's been that long. It's
crazy
it's mad.
Think about it. Yeah,
I was a child back then.
Yeah, but I think Headley, you've got a point as well. Though it kick-started something where it started to change from the OG Xbox and the PS2 being kind of just still the nerd thing to the 360, the Wii, and the PS3 being more widely accepted into everybody's homes. And then everybody, especially with the Wii and 360, with kind of those peripherals that they had with the Kinect and the Joy-Con controllers and things. That's when it really took off into casual.
Right?
Yeah.
Moved
That's
out
when it
from
really skyrocketed. Yeah. And I mean, that's a generation where we did 100 million plus, like 360 did 90 million. The PS3 did like almost 100 million.
Yeah.
Like, if we imagine if that was today, where we've got all three consoles still doing the same numbers, that would be absolutely insane. But times have changed.
The others are kind of on track to do that, right?
Others are still doing the same, yeah.
100 million. The PlayStation 5 is basically on par with.
And we know why though. We all know why. It's down to that Xbox One generation and what happened with that, unfortunately, and the way that they marketed that as TV. When you're launching a game console for the first time is not the way you go about it. But to kind of
I think briefly going back to what we said earlier, like I can see those tables turning with a new Call of Duty. Instead of TV is Call of Duty for quote unquote free, Call of Duty quote unquote free. Like that's it will move some boxes for sure.
Yeah. But to kind of harken back to the console thing, it's for me it was. I always have the fond memories of course. I think it brought, as much as fighting games were relatively popular on consoles as well, I think it brought fighting games more to the forefront, more to the feeling like you're in the arcade playing your fighting game with your friends type feeling on your consoles for the first time, like your Street Fighter 4 Arcade Edition or Street Fighter 4, or playing your Gears of War on multiplayer for the first time, and I have massive fond memories of making loads of friends on Gears when that released and playing Gears in canals, repeatedly 2v2ing people on sniper battles and things, and just so many great memories of playing on 360, like on a multitude of games, whether it be silly games like Doritos Crash Course or playing on Kinect games like Kinectimals, or 1 versus 100 or daft little arcade games you can get on there. And it was just such like you say, it is the most fond memories I have of gaming. And as much as I love gaming today and I still love the hobby, it still doesn't have the same feeling to me as it did then. That was a special generation, I think, across the board.
Mm.
I agree. And now with the 360 store being gone, of course, the question comes up about whether Microsoft should try to, well, uh, bring back the backwards compatibility program in a way. There are
I think
still
there's like
tons of
200
games.
titles, 200 titles that they haven't
Yeah,
PC'd or something like that.
Mm.
yeah.
There's one game that always comes to mind for me, which is Fear. I can get
Oh,
Fear 2,
Fear.
I can get Fear
Yeah.
3. I can't play the original on my Series X, and I really want to. I really,
Max
really want to.
Payne,
And I don't have a
right?
360, so I couldn't have
Three.
jumped back in and got that as well.
Yeah, Fear. Man. That was
Yeah,
one hell of a game.
was. Condemned was another one for me. That was I think that was. I remember my because I was 15 when the console came out, and I think I couldn't get one at launch. I think my mum came home with one day as like it was like an early 16th birthday present, I want to say. I was so excited because I didn't expect it. I had no idea. I was so hyped, and I remember she picked up, and again, I was 15 at the time, so shout out to my mum for picking up an 18 rated game. She came home with King Kong and Condemned. And oh my god, I thought Condemned was absolutely fantastic. I loved
Yeah,
that game.
It was
they need to bring
So
it back.
good.
Need to
Yeah.
bring it back.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It scared the living shit out of you. Like the mannequins. The mannequins.
Oh man.
With me.
Yeah, they were rough. Such a good game. I actually want to play that again. I've had that on my wish list.
I bought it the other week actually.
Oh, did
I
you?
think it was on sale for like $2 or something like that at the
Was
time.
it?
I was like,
Oh,
yeah,
fuck, I missed that.
yeah.
Yeah.
I was
I
like,
was looking
yes!
out for it as well. Yeah, I missed it. Yeah. So good. Love that game.
Max
Yeah.
Payne 3 is also still not on in the backwards compatibility program, right?
Insane.
Mm.
Also kind of a shame.
Yeah, I would like to see them fix that, and hopefully that's something that we see next generation. I know we heard Sarah Bond talk about things being forwards compatible, and obviously putting a renewed focus on backwards compatibility as well, and really just taking those steps to reassure the community that like, hey, your libraries aren't going anywhere. We care about you. We want you to stay here, and we want you to play the stuff you've paid money for. So
They will never
yeah,
ever
hopefully.
be able to not have back compat. Can you imagine a new gen and you won't be able to play at least the stuff you can play now?
I really wish that my PS5 was more backwards compatible. Because I missed out on the generation, I don't have this same nostalgia for the PS3 as I do the 360 because I never had a PS3. The biggest game for me that comes to mind is obviously The Last of Us, and thankfully that came out as a remade game, or remake/remaster. I loved that game. But I'm sure there's a wealth of PS3 titles that I should go back and play, and I can't go and play it, and it is frustrating. I want that opportunity. I don't have the time. I don't even have the time to manage my own backlog, let alone like a different generation on a different platform. But if I had the time, I'd love to go and play the games.
Yeah.
That's.
I agree.
The OG God of Wars. You definitely should.
Exactly. Yeah.
3, so yeah.
Yeah.
Such good games. Yeah, but at some point they kind of have to shut the store down, and I know a lot of the issues with the back compat program is not just related to like getting the games running. Yeah, it's the most challenging part is
licensing
legal part.
and stuff as well.
Exactly. Licensing and so on.
And the studios no longer exist, so they can't even get the like.
Yeah.
All we need is this. Can we do this? Yes, you can do this. Brilliant, we'll do this. That's all the need for the vast majority. But because the studios are no longer there, they can't ask anybody. They're like, who can we ask?
Like their old owner's great nephew or something. Like, can we sell this game?
Yeah. Can we do it back compatible, please? Can we sell it?
Yeah. All right. So. Good times. Back in the days, the 360 will will be
And I
remembered
fixed a
as
fair share of my 360's Red Ring of Deaths, by the way.
I never had the
Nice.
Red Ring of Death, man. I'm so lucky. I had a day one Xbox 360, and I never experienced the Red Ring of Death. So
You've just reminded
myself,
me.
my friend and his friend all had the Red Ring of Death, but it was the old
Mm.
blanket maneuver where you just covered it up until it overheated itself and then it fixed. You're like, woohoo!
there you go. There you go.
You have reminded me. I did have to take a 360 apart, and I think I managed to fix the red ring, but I only for like a couple of months or something like that. It still did keel over eventually. But I do remember doing a bit of surgery on a 360.
Yeah.
Yeah, I did a surgery on my 360 when I upgraded to the, what was it called, Slim or something, like the,
Yeah.
the Gears 3 one, you know, that made the Lancer sound when you eject the disc.
Yes.
I had
Nice.
that one, and I dropped that while moving, and I had to fix it, and that was.
Did you manage to fix it?
I did manage to fix it, yeah.
Nice.
The disk drive didn't work, but by the time I was already almost transitioning to completely digital anyway, so at least the console.
Yeah,
worked.
that's good.
All right, guys, let us move to our weekly section where we take community questions. Yeah.
Yes.
Each and every week, people can write in, usually on Wednesdays, on the social channels, either here on YouTube or on Twitter or wherever you are. You can write in questions or topics you would like us to discuss. And this week, we got a couple of good ones. The first coming from Syed Hussain, and he says, it's hard for me to read that. Pineapple and jalapeno on pizza. Why do they taste so good?
It
Sounds
doesn't.
good.
Doesn't.
doesn't taste
Hedley, how
Um,
do you? Where do you
so-
stand with the pineapple on pizza thing?
I'm very, very pro pineapple on
Ooh.
pizza because I
Now
like
we have to
the
unfortunately keep you out.
sweetness, the sweetness and the tartness of the pineapple with like saltiness of like ham or bacon or pepperoni and something like that. I really like that flavor combination. So I'm very pro pineapple. Sorry about that.
Wrong answer. Definitely the wrong answer.
Yeah, I like apple and bacon. The apple and bacon together for me, I like that. But
I've never
not
tried
pineapple.
that.
Nope.
I've never tried that. I'm
Apple and bacon's
absolutely
nice.
pro
That
jalapenos on a
yeah,
pizza.
that actually does sound nice.
Uh, not a pineapple. Absolutely not. All right. Toothpaste writes in and says, Xbox current no console required strategy is based on the existence of people who own an Xbox controller but no console. Are there such people and will there be? I mean, we kind of touched on that a little bit earlier, right? For me, it's also kind of hard to imagine that someone just goes out, buys a controller, because you still have that as an entry barrier. You can't just play on the Fire TV stick. You have to subscribe. Okay, maybe you would try that, but then actually go out, buy a controller. I'm not sure how
And
many
again,
people would
I
do
think
that.
there's a couple of barriers, to be honest, because I think there's still a lot of people that don't have the best of network connections. And we've covered this before, but it's still not the best of services when it comes to cloud gaming. It's okay-ish. Multiplayer is an
Not
absolute
really.
no-no.
xCloud is
It's not
1080.
good for multiplayer.
Yeah, it's a no-no on xCloud to play multiplayer games. So you're not going to get on there and try and play Call of Duty online because it's just not going to work.
Yeah.
Like, you're going to get owned big time. And same for any multiplayer game and any racing game for that matter.
It annoys me that ABK games aren't allowed on cloud thanks to CMA. It really, really annoys me because I would love to play Diablo 4 on my Fire Stick. I think that would be really nice and really chilled and really easy to just pick up and play in bed.
What's
and I
up with
can't do
that?
it.
I mean, they licensed those rights out to Ubisoft, but Ubisoft isn't doing anything cloud related to the ABK stuff. Or I haven't heard anything from Ubisoft so far. How they
I'm not sure what Ubisoft are doing with it. It's I hope that further down the line Microsoft does try and get that stipulation reviewed by just going, hey, look, you're walling off customers from content that means that we can't sell a cloud subscription in earnest because those ABK games that might get consumers over the line won't do it now because we can't provide them. I hope that they try and pick up that fight.
I would love that because it is kind of weird to leave those games out, and some of the biggest games that they are about to release into Game Pass won't be part of it.
Yeah.
Um,
Like Call of Duty would be horrific on cloud, but Diablo would be great.
yeah, true.
Yeah.
Absolutely. Storm Player DX writes in and asks, do you have YouTube shots this year, the same as you have had on last year's Gamescom? So since we talked about this earlier, we are not going to Gamescom this year, so no YouTube shots for Gamescom this year, unfortunately. Phantosur writes in, which game would you say is your perfect comfort food that keeps you going back to just to chill in that world, environment, or play style?
It's a nice question. For me, possibly Halo MCC. I really like playing the Halo campaigns. I don't jump into them very often, but as far as comfort games go, like if I'm going through like a particularly stressful period or just really want that nostalgia hit, yeah, I'll jump into Halo's campaigns.
Good choice.
Starfield is more of a recent comfort game for me. I really like Starfield. Same for I could actually put Baldur's Gate in that list. Despite the fact that I haven't finished it yet, I already know that I want to play through it again because it is, though it looks quite daunting, especially if you're not really into that type of game. It's quite relaxing. I find it quite therapeutic as long as I'm not having to think very hard.
Yeah, with the turn-based combat, it really helps. It takes the stress out of live action.
Yeah, for sure. How about you guys? What are your comfort games?
I think I have two. The Witcher 3 is one that I tend to go back. I have almost 6 full playthroughs of that game now,
Nice.
including the DLCs, and it's just, I know that world, and when I walk through Novigrad, it kind of feels like I'm home, and it's just super relaxing to me. For a long time, it has also been Skyrim, but ever since Starfield was released, I tend to do that as a comfort game as well. I play it on my alley when I'm somewhere in a hotel or something. I have to travel quite a lot for work, so I play it there since I have already, I think, about 200 hours or so in the game. I've done all the main stories and basically side quests, so I don't have to pay too much attention to the story, but I just enjoy the game so much. Starfield and Witcher are probably my two games. Dutch, how about you?
Yeah, I've got a few, to be fair, but it's ones that I've grown up on, that have always remained a staple in games that I've always played. So on Nintendo's front, it's Pokemon. I could literally turn that on, go and grind a few Pokemon and evolve them and chill out and just relax on that game. And you don't even have to think about it twice. You can just save it, turn it off, and put it at the back burner. Like, it's, again, you don't have to really think about it. Like, the story's there, kind of, but you're not really bothered about that. You just beat the Elite Four, and you and you go on from there. Final Fantasy's always been a massive comfort game for me. I've always loved the franchise. I've lost track of the amount of times I've played Final Fantasy 7 and 9 and across the years, and even go back onto 6. And now I've got the Pixel Remaster on PC for 6. I've went back to start and playing that again. So, yeah, the Final Fantasy series. And then ultimately another one for me is Flight Sim. It is a massive comfort game. I can turn that on and choose a plane, choose a destination, and just go and fly around for hours on end and not even think about anything and just relax. So they're kind of my 3 staple relaxation comfort games.
Nice.
Good stuff. DSP writes it. With Xbox hardware sales currently in a major decline, tracking under Xbox One even, I believe it is now time to ask the hard question. Has Sarah Bond been handed the keys to a burning castle? She is head of Xbox hardware after all.
I mean, time will tell on what she does with the hardware that she's in charge of now, that she's in charge of unveiling and producing for the next one. We can only judge her based on her work as the now head of hardware. So we'll see what she does. This generation is ultimately not going great in terms of hardware, but it depends on the way that the message, when she messages the next hardware that she unveils, and what that hardware is. So I think time
and
will
what
tell.
software that's going to ship with as well,
Yeah.
like how that's marketed, how that's positioned. It's gonna be a very, very important reveal for Xbox. They cannot fuck it up.
Yeah.
True.
I don't think it's a burning castle though. Like I am actually quite excited about Xbox's future. I'm excited about where it is now. Yeah, I would like to see better household recognition and Game Pass become a household name because I think that would be really good for the brand. But objectively, as an Xbox user, something I've said on the show that I co-host with Acer and Gamzee a few times. Like this is the happiest I've been as someone who likes playing games in the Xbox ecosystem. There are too many games for me to play. There's always something in Game Pass that I want to pick up. The value for money that I get from Game Pass Ultimate is something that I'm genuinely really happy with. Like there's always something on offer, and I don't know. I'm happy with the state that the platform is in. It just needs better uptake, better marketing, better communication to grow itself. But in terms of how Microsoft is looking after its users, I think it's doing a good job. It could always do better. There's always room for improvement, but it's in a better place than it's been for a long time. It just needs to keep moving in that direction.
The future of Xbox looks brighter than ever before.
It really does.
Yeah, the roadmap is so exciting when you look not just what is coming this year, but next year and the year after, right? With
that showcase
like
we had,
Fable,
like what,
Perfect
6-7 weeks ago, was absolutely insane. It was unbelievably good, and it was just content hit after content hit.
That's true.
And there's more of that coming down the pipeline because they have so many studios now. Like the thing that I find most exciting about Xbox is the fact that they've bought Bethesda and ABK. Like I like all the games that those studios make, and they own them. They're all coming to Game Pass. Like that's fucking awesome.
The same thing. ABK isn't really that exciting for me, because if I look at it realistically, what are they offering? They offer the Call of Duty games. They are cool, but I'm not a big Call of Duty multiplayer guy. I play the campaigns. I do enjoy them. That's 5 hours a year, and then move on. So Blizzard is bringing out a Diablo every 10 years or so. That's about it. But when I look at Bethesda and the stuff they release, they bring out a banger every year, like at least once a year. Yeah. And
plus we've still got Coalition. Plus we've still got 343
Playground,
more or less.
Compulsion,
and Playground. Oh my god, I'm so excited for Fable.
Yeah,
I cannot wait for that game. There's
a
lot to be excited about.
I swear to God. Help me hell to pay.
Please don't balls that up. You can't fuck Halo up, please. Not Halo, Fable. You can't fuck Halo up again either.
No, can't get any more.
Fable needs to bang.
Yeah.
But I have no doubt that they will nail it. It looks so good. Everything we've seen so far from Fable, I'm super hopeful for that game.
Yeah. Same.
Yeah. All right. Final question of the day comes from the Big Bridge. You possess a rare and powerful time crystal which allows you to go back in time and change a tragic fate of a deceased video game character. It can only be used once before it shatters forever. Which character would it be?
It's a really good question. I love
Hmm.
that. I love that.
Poor Dom. Poor Dom.
Dom. Oh, Dom is a
It's a
good
good
one.
answer.
Yeah.
Yep. I just
Very
think of
good.
that fatal day.
Mm.
Yeah.
See, I really like Red Dead Redemption 2, and Arthur Morgan was a good character, but when I think about the first Red Dead and John, I just liked him more as a character. I just did, and so I would probably name John
hmm
Marston.
I might go with Sergeant Johnson. I wasn't okay with his death.
Yeah,
Wasn't
yeah.
alright with that. I really like Sergeant Johnson. Yeah, yeah.
It's also a good choice. Great question, though. Great
It was a
question.
really good question. I like that a lot. It's very good.
All right, guys, that brings us already to the end of this show. I want to say a big thank you to everyone who tuned in here today. Of course, also a big thank you to everyone who listened after the fact and made it to the end. Big shout out to you guys as well. And Hedley, of course, a big thank you to you for joining us here today. It's been an absolute blast.
Thank you very much, mate. I've really enjoyed my time. It's been really nice hanging out with you guys. It's nice that we get to hang out on a Thursday because, as I said at the start, it's our schedules directly clash, so
Yes.
it's never actually possible for us to do that. Yeah, it's been really nice. It's been really good.
But whenever you have the chance, not have your own show and you want to come back, you are absolutely welcome. We had a
Thank you.
blast with you on the
Thank you
show.
very much.
So let everyone know where they can find you and
So,
how
yeah.
to get into contact with you.
Yeah, so you can find me on YouTube first and foremost. Make sure you go and check out my channel there. I am a graphic designer for a living, and I have a journalism degree. And about a year ago, I thought, let's have some fun with some content and see what happens. And in just over a year, I've built over 870 something subscribers, which is something I'm really proud of. And I've had a lot of fun doing that. Being brutally honest, I struggle to post as often as I would like to as a YouTuber because, like, full disclosure, I'm in one of those times in life where, like, real life just comes at you hard for an extended period of time, and balancing YouTube with that is really difficult.
It is.
But I'm really proud of the content that I've put up, so go and check that out. And I have got some more
I'll put the link in the
ideas
description for everyone, by the way.
Thank you very much. I actually remember when I found your channel, Boxy, quite like fairly early on when you started making videos and stuff, and I remember really liking your format. And I think mine's kind of similar to that as well. So yeah, if you like the content that Boxy's put out in the past, it's similar sort of work, and in that same sort of space. You can also find me every Thursday, but make sure you still watch this show, whether it's after or before. You have to check out both. That's the deal. You can't just pick one or the other. You have to do both now. It's the rules. I didn't make them up. Don't look at me. We're called the Xbox Series Podcast. We go live every Thursday, 8 p.m. UK time, 12 p.m. Wait, hold on. 3 p.m. Eastern and 12 p.m. Pacific. Yeah, that's all. That's over on the Gaming Arcadia YouTube channel, which is Asa from Game on Daily's channel. And you can find me on Twitter or X. I call it X. At DeadlyHeadley _. You can also find me on Threads as well. Deadly Headley. I like the vibe of Threads. I don't use it, but I'm daily becoming more and more horrified by the shit that Twitter lets people get away with. So go and check me out there if you want to, but I don't use it very much. But yeah, when the time comes, I might actually just bin off Twitter and move everything over to there. I feel like we're getting closer and closer to that every day.
Yeah,
Yeah.
Twitter is something these days, indeed. Yeah, good stuff. So,
That's me.
for everyone, I put it will be visible right after the show in the description. The link to Headley's YouTube channel. Definitely check it out. And the podcast you do, of course, with Asa is a fantastic Xbox centric
Thank you.
podcast.
We're really, really proud of that.
Yeah.
I think we've done like 26 episodes, something like that. So
Yeah.
we're quite new. We started earlier this year, obviously. But yeah, it's been great. It's really, really fun. So, and obviously that's on Apple Podcasts and Spotify and all basically wherever you can find this, you can. Apart from Amazon Music, we're not on there. You still got that one guy on Amazon
Yeah, we got
Amazon
two
Podcast?
now.
Shout out to him.
We
You got two.
We have two.
Shout out to
on
both
Amazon.
of them.
Yeah.
Good
yeah.
effort. It's strong.
But they never listen. So we have 2 subs there, but we have 0 listens.
Hey, guys on Amazon Podcast, what are you doing? Come back. They're not going to hear this.
Yeah.
I think we're just there for moral support.
Indeed. All right. Yeah, Hedley, again, a big thank you for taking the time and coming.
It's
on.
been really fun.
If
Thank you both.
If you
for
ever
having
have
me.
the
It's been
chance
really
to come
good.
back, we would absolutely appreciate you.
Absolutely. Yeah, absolutely. No, next time Asa decides to shirk his responsibilities and not show up for a show. I'm kidding. He's gone on holiday. He's not abandoned us. I'll give you guys a shout for sure.
Awesome stuff. All right, Dutch, let everyone know what you've coming up, man.
Yeah. Well, obviously, apart from escaping the heat, I keep meaning to stream, but every time I go to stream, it's absolutely sweltering. So then I'm like, nope, I'm not putting myself through that.
Nope. I understand.
Yeah.
So
then I end up just cabbaged on the sofa in the living room, just keeping cool. But no, other than that, yeah, I'll try and stream depending on what the temperature's like. Other than that, it's just podcast every Thursday at the moment. Still building the website in the background and obviously starting to get articles and things together. And then we can get the website up and running and start getting written articles as well as reviews, previews, and opinion pieces on there as well. So,
what's the website you're working on, Dutch? What are you working on, website-wise?
A website for midweek mix-up, but solely
nice.
for gaming news. It's when we're having a look at, if you have a look at the kind of a medium across the board there, I think a lot of the focus on a lot of the content creation side of things, it takes a heavier slant towards the written article when it comes to media recognition over streaming and YouTube channels. I think you've got to have a significant amount of viewers and subs these days on a channel to even be recognized or even be considered for recognition now. But a good website with decent traffic and a lot of well-written articles and reviews, etc., is more sought after from an actual business perspective than it is anything else. So I think having that as an actual output for ourselves, as well as people that are wanting to get into that medium for the first time, is going to be a good shout. So slowly but surely getting that together. Yeah.
Cool.
Sweet. And we'll definitely talk more about that as soon as it launches, man.
Yes, definitely.
All right. Good. And with that, we come to an end of the show. Again, a big thank you to everyone who tuned in. We had a blast here today, and we will be back, of course, next week on Thursday, the usual time, 8 p.m. Europe time, 7 p.m. UK time, and 2 p.m. Eastern. And until then, try to play some games, and don't forget to game on.